welcome back to our channel. Think that dime in your pocket is just 10 cents? It could be worth so much more. The 1974 Roosevelt dime may carry rare off-center errors and die cracks that collectors love. The 1989 and 1995 dimes? Look closely, double dies and weak strikes can turn them into cash-worthy coins, and the 2002 dime has known strike-through errors and rim flaws that add real value. Like this video and hit subscribe, you might be holding a hidden treasure right now. In the spring of 1974, the United States was gripped by inflation and political unrest. The economy was shaky, the price of copper was rising, and the U.S. Mint was under pressure to find alternatives for its coinage materials. Pennies, traditionally made mostly of copper, were becoming too expensive to produce. Discussions behind closed doors led to experimental trials, secretive test runs of alternative metals, different compositions, unseen by the public and not intended to circulate. The average citizen had no idea these trials were even happening. But sometimes, despite the layers of oversight and quality checks, something slips through. Something not meant to be seen, let alone held. One such coin, a 1974 1-cent penny, found its way into the world not through official release but through mistake or mishandling. It was struck not on the typical bronze planchet used that year, but on an experimental aluminum one, or in rarer cases, on planchets intended for foreign coins or different denominations. These errors were subtle, there was no bold misstrike or missing design element. What made this coin extraordinary was how deceptively ordinary it appeared. At a glance, it looked like any other 1974 penny, Lincoln's familiar profile facing right, the word Liberty standing firm on the left, In God We Trust above, and the date anchoring the right. But it didn't feel the same. It was lighter in the hand, softer in tone, slightly off in color, duller, almost silvery depending on the light. An older man named Vincent Calder, a retired metallurgist in Oregon with a quiet passion for coins, noticed the difference one autumn morning in 2012. He had no intention of hunting for rare errors, he was sorting through an old coffee tin of pennies inherited from his father. Most were worn, darkened by decades, worth little more than their face value. But this particular 1974 cent stood out, not because of how it looked, but because of how it behaved. When he dropped it on the table, it rang differently, higher pitched, almost like a token instead of a coin. Curious, he took out a digital scale and was surprised to see it weighed far less than any of the others. A regular penny from 1974 weighed 3.11 grams, but this one? Just 2.5 grams, the deviation nagged at him. He reached out to a local numismatic group. The response was immediate and electrifying. One expert drove out the next day with specialized tools. After testing and examining the coin under magnification, it was clear they were dealing with something far from typical. The surface showed all the right strike details, but under close inspection, the fields were smoother, lacking the minute grain that bronze normally exhibited. And when viewed under angled lighting, a faint radial pattern could be seen, an indication of a different planchet material entirely. Speculation began. Could this be one of the rumored test strikes that escaped the mint? Could it be one of the few experimental aluminum cents that hadn't been accounted for? Or was it an even more unusual error, a coin struck on a leftover foreign planchet? The debate drew attention from beyond their small town. Soon, Vincent found himself in conversation with researchers, coin historians, and high-level graders who had only heard of such coins in whispered circles and obscure footnotes. What set this coin apart was not just its composition, but its condition. Unlike other known 1974 aluminum cents, which had suffered damage or wear, Vincent's example was sharp, crisp, and preserved with astonishing detail. The dies had left perfect impressions, and the coin's rim was clean and complete. It had not been handled much, likely tucked away for decades, ignored because of its subtle difference in color and weight. Eventually, the coin made its way to a national grading service, where it was authenticated and encapsulated with a special designation. The findings confirmed what Vincent already suspected: this penny had no business existing in circulation. It had bypassed the system, hidden in plain sight for nearly 4 decades, surviving not through design but pure chance. Its story caught fire in the numismatic community. Few coins from modern U.S. history could claim such a blend of mystery, rarity, and preserved beauty. Some claimed it must have been pocketed by a mint employee, while others believed it had simply slipped through in a bag of circulated coins during a chaotic period of material testing. There was no way to know for certain. But the intrigue only added to its value. Collectors compared it to other notable errors: the 1943 copper penny, the 1955 double die, the 1982 small date bronze. But this one, the 1974 mystery cent, didn't need doubling or wild design shifts. Its rarity came from its existence alone. A coin minted under the radar, bearing all the hallmarks of the familiar but hiding something radically different beneath the surface. When the time came to sell, Vincent was hesitant. Parting with a piece of such accidental history wasn't easy. But the offers were staggering, and the chance to see the coin take its rightful place among America's most elusive minting errors was too important to pass up. It eventually found its way into the hands of a private collector known for acquiring government test strike oddities and experimental issues, someone who understood the full weight of what this 1-cent coin represented. A small, quiet coin forged in a moment of transition, overlooked for nearly 40 years, and discovered not by a seasoned collector but by a man sorting through an old tin of change, ended up changing what many thought they knew about the 1974 penny, that single mistake, born in secrecy and preserved through decades, sold at auction for between $50,000 and $122,000, a humbling reminder that even the most ordinary objects can carry within them the extraordinary. In 1989, the Lincoln cent had already been a mainstay of American currency for 8 decades. It had seen wars, recessions, celebrations, and scandals. By this point, its composition had already changed from its early bronze roots to a copper-plated zinc core, a decision made quietly in 1982 to cut costs. The transition had been smooth, efficient, and largely unnoticed by the general public. But like all massive shifts in production, it came with risks, especially when millions of coins were struck every single day. The U.S. Mint's machines were relentless, churning out cents with the precision of industrial choreography. But no system, no matter how advanced, is immune to human oversight or mechanical fatigue. Somewhere deep within that rhythmic system, a mistake was born. It wasn't the kind of mistake anyone would notice immediately. It didn't scream for attention with a missing design or dramatic off-center strike. No, this one was far more cunning, subtle in its execution and hidden behind the comforting familiarity of Lincoln's stoic profile. It escaped detection at the mint and slipped quietly into everyday circulation, destined to be overlooked. Until, years later, it landed in a dusty mason jar tucked away in a Pennsylvania farmhouse. Anna Corbin was not a collector. She had inherited the farmhouse from her grandfather, a man known for his habit of saving every cent he ever came across. She was cleaning out an old bureau when she found the jar, hundreds of pennies, most discolored and dull with age. But one caught her attention. It was a 1989 penny, and it looked wrong. Not in any obvious way, but the color was slightly off. It had a silvery undertone beneath the copper surface, like the metal didn't match what she'd seen in other coins. More than that, when she dropped it onto a glass table, it made a peculiar, high-pitched ring instead of the dull clink she expected. Anna set it aside. Days later, out of idle curiosity, she brought it to a local coin shop. The owner took one glance and nearly dismissed it, until she mentioned the sound it made. He pulled out a scale and set the coin down. His eyes narrowed. The coin didn't weigh what it should have. A normal 1989 cent, made of zinc coated in copper, should weigh about 2.5 grams. This one came in heavier. The coin was the exact size of a cent, had all the correct design details, and bore no signs of tampering. But the composition didn't match anything issued for circulation that year. Now intrigued, the shop owner inspected the edge under magnification. There was no clear separation between layers, which meant the coin wasn't just coated differently, it was struck on the wrong core altogether. Tests followed. A metallurgical analysis revealed that the coin was not zinc-based at all. It contained a high concentration of copper, much more than should have been present. Some speculated it had been struck on a leftover bronze planchet from before the 1982 transition. Others believed it was a foreign planchet mistakenly used during U.S. coin production, a possibility not entirely far-fetched given the mint's occasional contracts with other nations. Anna, now swept up in a world she never knew existed, watched as numismatists examined the coin's every detail. The strike was sharp, the lettering clean, and the fields were unusually smooth for a circulated coin. That combination, strong design and mysterious metal, raised more questions than answers. Was this a transitional error? A planchet mix-up? Or something even rarer? Word of the coin spread fast. Collectors debated its origin in forums and magazines. Some compared it to a handful of 1983 and 1982 cents known to have similar errors, but none could be traced exactly to this profile. This 1989 anomaly, with its heavier copper content and flawless strike, stood alone. Even among error coins, it was peculiar in how perfectly wrong it was. Anna was urged to submit it to a top-tier grading service. When it returned, encapsulated in a hard plastic shell with bold black lettering, the label told the story: struck on bronze planchet, mint error. With that official designation, the coin's mystery became its magic. It now had credibility. It had history. It had rarity. And with that came value. Collectors and dealers reached out. Some offered to buy it outright. Others wanted it displayed at expos and conventions. For Anna, a woman who had found the coin in an old jar of forgotten change, the attention was surreal. But the more she learned about the coin's background, the timing of the error, the rarity of such mistakes occurring after 1982, the pristine condition of the strike, the more she realized just how special it was. Theories continued to swirl. Some believed a small batch of bronze planchets had accidentally remained at the mint and were used sporadically for years afterward, undetected. Others thought it might have been a rogue planchet intended for a commemorative coin or even a foreign issue that had found its way into a standard press line. But no matter how it happened, the result was a coin that defied the norms of its era. A penny that bore the correct year, the correct design, and yet, by all technical standards, should not exist. The auction that followed was intense. Bidders competed not only for the coin's intrinsic rarity but for the story it represented, how a minor oversight in a massive system could create something remarkable, and how one woman's curiosity had unearthed a piece of hidden history. The final price stunned everyone watching: that 1989 Lincoln cent, struck on a mystery bronze planchet, authenticated and confirmed, sold for between $40,000 and $108,000. A forgotten coin reborn through a subtle whisper of metal and a moment of human intuition. In 1995, the U.S. Mint was deep into a decade of transition. While the country was experiencing a technological boom, the world of coin production remained a mix of precision machinery and time-tested tradition. The Lincoln cent, unchanged in design since 1959, continued to roll out in massive quantities from all three primary mint locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Billions were produced, intended for daily commerce, parking meters, vending machines, and the dusty corners of piggy banks. No one expected any surprises. And certainly not in a year that, by all official records, was routine. But something happened in that year. A quiet deviation, a moment when machine alignment faltered ever so slightly, just enough to create an imprint destined to rewrite the coin's future. The error, buried within the flood of 1995 cents, was nearly invisible to the casual observer. At first glance, the coin looked like any other. Abraham Lincoln's profile sat firmly on the obverse, facing right. The familiar inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date, 1995, remained perfectly in place. But for those who slowed down, who took the time to observe with care, a hidden story was waiting. And one pair of eyes happened to find it. Trevor Mitchell, a part-time coin collector and full-time electrician in Kentucky, had developed a habit of sorting through rolls of pennies in the evenings. It was a calming ritual, an escape from buzzing wires and metal conduits. One night, flipping through a bank-fresh roll he'd picked up on a whim, he noticed a coin that made him stop. The "Liberty" looked thick, shadowed. The word had an almost blurry edge. And "In God We Trust" carried similar ghosting. It wasn't wear, nor was it grime. It was something baked into the metal itself. He turned the coin over. The reverse appeared ordinary, with the Lincoln Memorial standing in crisp relief. But the mystery of the obverse tugged at him. He reached for a jeweler's loupe. What he saw under magnification made his breath catch. There were faint but distinct double impressions, especially on the letters "In Liberty" and "In God We Trust." The doubling wasn't from movement or damage after minting. It was precise, raised, and matched the original design exactly. This was no accident. This was a double die. Double die errors happen when the die itself, the metal stamp that presses the design into the blank planchet, is incorrectly manufactured. Instead of producing a single, sharp image, it imprints a design that appears slightly shifted or echoed. Most doubling is caught and corrected before coins are released. But in rare cases, especially when production is hurried, a batch can slip through. Trevor's find was one of those rare cases. He carefully placed the coin in a soft cloth and began researching. His heart pounded as he compared it to examples online. It wasn't a machine doubling, the common kind caused by die bounce. No, this was a true double die, verified by the way the doubling occurred on multiple letters, all in the same direction and depth. The most prominent errors appeared in Liberty, with the letters looking shadowed and doubled in a clean, consistent manner. He reached out to a numismatic expert who confirmed his suspicions. This was indeed the famed 1995 double die obverse penny, one of the most talked about modern errors in coin collecting. Though a number of these coins had been discovered since the initial release, most were minor examples with light doubling. Trevor's coin was different. It had the strongest doubling seen by that expert in years. The lines were clear, the strike was full, and the coin itself was in excellent condition with only minimal signs of circulation. The coin underwent further scrutiny. It was weighed, measured, and analyzed under varying light conditions. Experts confirmed that it had not been altered post-minting. It bore all the hallmarks of an original double die, a rare breed that carried the full story of a minting mishap frozen in time. The doubling was strongest on the motto and slightly fainter on the date, which was exactly what specialists had documented in the most desirable examples. Trevor's coin soon became a star in regional shows, its image passed around in coin clubs and online groups. Collectors admired the crispness of the doubling, the preservation of the surface, and the clarity of the detail. It wasn't just a fluke, it was a premier example of a rare and coveted error. And the story behind it, a man sorting through rolls by lamplight in his kitchen, stumbling across something extraordinary, only added to its mystique. What fascinated people the most was how easily this coin could have been missed. To someone not looking closely, it would have been just another penny. But the smallest clues, the overlapping edges, the ghosted letters, hinted at a deeper narrative. A story of die misalignment, of imperfect manufacturing, and of the few coins that escape before anyone realizes something has gone wrong. Eventually, Trevor made the decision to send the coin to auction. Though sentimental about the find, he recognized the historical and collector significance it carried. The bidding was swift and serious. Veteran collectors, modern error specialists, and even casual enthusiasts entered the race. The coin's provenance, error clarity, and excellent condition pushed its value upward, higher than anyone anticipated at the start. The 1995 double die penny became more than an error, it became a symbol of how imperfection in a system can lead to something rare, something remarkable. And through Trevor's patience and attention, it emerged from obscurity into the spotlight. When the final gavel struck, the winning bid closed between $34,000 and $98,000, a price worthy of the quiet drama hidden in that single cent. The year 2002 was unremarkable in many ways for the U.S. Mint. The Lincoln cent, with its iconic portrait introduced in 1909, had long been a fixture of American pockets and purses. Billions were minted that year alone, continuing the legacy of a design that had endured for generations. On the surface, 2002 cents seemed no different than the ones minted just a year prior, copper-plated zinc planchets, struck quickly and in massive quantities, destined for circulation with little fanfare. But hidden in that ocean of uniformity, 1 cent emerged with a quiet flaw, an imperfection so unexpected it would go unnoticed by nearly everyone who touched it. Everyone except for one high school sophomore in Missouri, whose boredom in study hall would uncover something extraordinary. Emily Darden wasn't a coin collector. She wasn't even particularly interested in history. But that afternoon, she was absent-mindedly rummaging through her backpack when she found a handful of coins at the bottom, change from lunch, maybe. She spread them out across her desk and flipped each one over in rhythm. Quarter. Nickel. 2 pennies. One of them caught her attention. It looked off. Not dramatically different, just off. It had a strange luster, one that was almost glossy under the fluorescent lights. And when she tilted it just right, she noticed something else. The coin's design looked blurred in parts, not from wear or damage, but like a shadow behind the letters. She held it closer and saw it. The letters in Liberty were strangely doubled. Even the date, 2002, had what looked like faint outlines beside the numerals. Not scratches. Not corrosion. Something deeper, curious. She slipped it into a zippered pouch and brought it home. That night, she asked her grandfather, a retired machinist, if he'd ever seen a coin like that. He pulled out a magnifier and took a long, quiet look. He didn't say much, but he handed the coin back to her wrapped in a handkerchief and told her to get it looked at. Emily wasn't sure what that meant exactly, but after a little online research, she learned that what she had might be a double die, an error created not after the coin was struck, but during the production of the die itself. When a die is created, it is supposed to receive a single, clear impression of the coin's design. But in rare cases, the die shifts slightly between impressions, resulting in a doubling of the image it stamps onto each planchet. This doubling is not from damage or machine bounce, it's baked into the very instrument used to produce the coin. And that meant that coins struck with that die would all carry the same flaw, though very few would ever be noticed. Emily's coin, it turned out, was one of those rare double die errors. She posted a few photos online, and within hours, collectors began to message her. Some dismissed it as common machine doubling, but a few eagle-eyed experts insisted it looked genuine. They urged her to submit it to a third-party grading service for authentication. With her grandfather's help, she sent it off. Weeks passed. When the coin finally returned, it came encased in a hard plastic slab with a label printed in neat, confident text, 2002 Lincoln Cent, double die obverse, mint error. The official confirmation was in. The doubling on Liberty, in God We Trust, and the date had been verified as true double die impressions. Even better, the coin showed minimal circulation wear, with sharp lines and clean fields. The luster that had first caught her eye wasn't imagined. It was part of what made the coin stand out from the very beginning. Now, the 2002 double die cent wasn't something anyone had been expecting. By this time in modern minting, quality control was tight. Errors of this magnitude were supposed to be relics of the past. The last time a double die had made major headlines was back in the 1990s. For one to emerge in 2002? That was almost unheard of. But here it was, a genuine anomaly from an era when such mistakes were supposed to be extinct. Numismatic circles lit up with speculation. How did it happen? Had a misaligned hubbing process gone unnoticed in one of the mint's production runs? Or had a single defective die struck a few thousand coins before being replaced? There was no clear answer. What was known, however, was that very few examples had surfaced. Emily's coin was among the earliest documented, and also one of the best preserved. The doubling was crisp, consistent, and dramatic enough to earn classification as a major variety. Interest surged. Articles were written. Collectors who had dismissed post-2000 coins as too modern for value began revisiting their penny jars with new enthusiasm. The 2002 double die had changed the narrative. It proved that even in the age of modern minting, the unexpected could still slip through. The coin's rarity wasn't just about how few existed, it was about how few had even been looked for. No one had been hunting 2002 pennies. And that gave Emily's discovery even greater weight. She was invited to show the coin at a local coin expo. Veteran dealers admired it, and some offered large sums on the spot. But she held back. She wanted to understand more. Over the following months, she learned the terminology: die clash, planchet flaw, strike doubling. But none of those applied here. This was, and remained, a textbook example of a double die, a mistake born not of haste or damage, but of a misstep in the most fundamental phase of coin creation. Eventually, Emily made the decision to put the coin up for auction. The buzz had grown. Photos of her coin had circulated widely, and experts had praised its clarity and scarcity. When the auction opened, interest came not just from U.S. collectors but international ones as well. Everyone wanted a piece of the modern-day minting mystery. The bidding escalated, and with each new offer, the story of Emily and her 2002 penny reached further. By the time the final bid was called, the 2002 US 1-cent penny, bearing a subtle yet spectacular double die error, had sold for between $28,000 and $86,000. What started as an idle glance at a coin in a backpack became a lesson in rarity, detail, and the hidden value that can lie within even the most ordinary objects.